Pop-up Garage Racer on our channel, you've already seen many videos about the F30, and today we've decided to shoot a review video about choosing the F30, which one to choose, with which modification and which trim level. In theory, the choice seems obvious, but we're not in theory. We're in the reality of the Ukrainian market. Here there are specific aspects to consider. We'll now go through the nuances of our market, and I believe each of you will make the optimal choice for yourselves regarding the BMW F30. It'll be interesting. Let's go. As many have already noticed, we are at our station on Beresteyska in Kyiv. This is the largest station among all our locations and cities in the network. I remember about 2 years ago, it's like nostalgia. We were closing the gates just like this, bringing in the F30 and shooting videos about cars after accidents and about the N20 engine. We tried to gather as many F30 models for you with different engines. But, as I've already mentioned, the Ukrainian market is specific and not everything is so simple. And in general, since the video is titled, Which BMW to choose or with which engine, it could have ended in 15 seconds. As the owner of the 330 said, what's there to shoot? B58 is top, done, video over, bye. Someone would add that the best engine isn't B58 but N47, which is a 3-liter diesel. By the way, we'll try to make this video less technically loaded and less boring, as we've already had many videos on the channel about all the engines in the F30. There have also been videos about 2-liter gasoline engines, 3-liter gasoline engines, pre-facelift models, and diesel engines, both 2-liter and 3-liter. So if you're interested in a specific engine, I think you'll find it on our channel after watching this video. Let's go through all the modifications that were available for the F30, considering the specifics of the Ukrainian market. We'll start with gasoline engines, beginning with the weakest version, the 316, 318 gasoline engines with the N13 engine. As you've probably noticed, there isn't a single video on our channel about such cars, because in reality, I might have seen such a car somewhere on the street, but not at Car Hour Repair Shop. I've seen a BMW 1 Series 116 with such an engine, but only a couple of times in my life, meaning this model is very rare on the F30. By the way, this entire review will be relevant not only for the F30, but also for the BMW 1 Series, 2 Series, 4 Series, Grand Coupe, and BMW 3 GT. So the N13 engine is not present at all in the reviews or on my back and is not recommended for purchase. Even the review of it is absent because there are none on the market, so there's nothing to shoot. Spectators from Russia may start to cry at this point. Sometimes before the war, they wrote me private messages, comments, questions about the N13 engine. I understand that this is a popular version in Russia, maybe they made such a version for assembly in Russia, something else, but generally it doesn't concern us particularly. Furthermore, recalling Russia during the war with Ukraine is unpleasant. What is the essence and benefit of our video? We will not explain the technical details of each engine to you. We will soberly assess the market in Ukraine. This is not a horse in a vacuum. This is reality. I have compiled some statistics for you. I visited Auto.ria, selected models from the 12th to the 17th year of production for the F30, and looked at how many models there are, what modifications are available, with which engines, and how many of each there are. I found an interesting feature. As of today, approximately 650 F30s are listed for sale on Auto.ria. Of them, imagine 80% are gasoline engines and only 20% are diesel. Therefore, whoever considered the diesel engine N57 should keep in mind that statistics strongly show a preference for gasoline engines. Consider the scenario where there is a genuine buyer interested in the F30 model, and he has come across positive opinions about both the B58 and the N57. However, when he visits auto.ria.com, he encounters reality firsthand. Can see that there are very few diesels, 80% are gasoline engines. Now, here's the interesting part. They look into the gasoline engines, searching for their favorite, perhaps wanting the B58 or something similar. The first thing they see is the market flooded with 328s and 320 with the N20 engine. So we have 328s of the entire market. I'm making up only 40%, imagine that. So that's half of all gasoline engines available on the F30. So right away, plus the 320ths, another 20%. So imagine the N20 engine, which is used in the 328s and the 320ths. Well, the BMW 328s here have 245 horsepower, and the BMW 320s have 184 horsepower. Look, cars with such engines already make up 40 plus 20%, which is about 60% of the market. Imagine that. and they are at the lowest price. So it turns out we don't have the N13, the N20 is the base F30. It turns out there are a lot of N20s, and they are the ones you'll encounter first. The second point is that they are at the lower end of the market, while the B58s, the 3-liter gasoline and diesel engines, are at the top of the market, so they are basically different segments. Since the 320s start now from $10,000 and go up to maybe $20,000, $23,000, $24,000, depending on the modification, year, and mileage. As for the 340s, 335 diesels, and for anyone looking for an N57, you can safely head to Europe or somewhere else, 0.1%. Imagine, they're practically non-existent. Let's return to the real world and face the truth. Into the reality of 2-liter diesels and gasolines. Of the main nuances, F30 on N20 engines is once per 100,000 replacement of chains, but for more details, you can watch our video. There are no more problems here. We pass to the main ideological competitor to 2-liter gasoline. It is the most popular at BMW now, 2-liter diesel N47. It is 320 diesel. The pre-restyled version with this engine. What's the fun of it, as people sometimes write in the comments asking questions? So what is better there, N47, N20? That is, look, in theory, on reliability, N47 will be better. About it we already spoke, by the way, in our separate video. There everything is told in detail. Very advised to look. After watching the video about N20 and N47, it will be clearer to you what I am saying now. What conclusions from me? The point is, yes, the N47. It's more reliable, it's more economical. That is, you don't have to look under the hood as often, and you don't have to change the chains every 100,000 kilometers. You only need to change them once every 200,000 kilometers. There are some nuances, sometimes there are leaks, sometimes there is a damper, but there is nothing like that. Because in general, the main problems are similar, but they occur at different mileage. But there are 3 problems. So you go to Auto.ea and see that you have first problem, 20% of diesels, and those 60%, that is N20, is 3 times more than N47. This is the first. Plus they are priced lower on average. Third problem, mileage. As you would understand, in Europe, such cars are not taken for small mileage. They usually have 300,000 kilometers, and at N20 still can meet 100,000 easily. For example, at this touring, check out what he, by the way, beautiful. 360,000 kilometers of mileage now. The owner of this 328 has 102,000 miles on it. Think about it. That is such a dilemma. You sit and think, man, I will drive an F30, one with 300,000 kilometers of mileage, the other with 100,000 kilometers, but there will be N47th engine. Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to go and buy that touring for 300,000 kilometers. Hell yeah. Is that what you're thinking now? More expensive, a few $1,000s more. I mean, it's already a prospect. And so specifically, you probably saw our review of the N47. You thought, okay, yeah, 200,000 kilometers, the chains change there. We need to find an N47 with 100,000 kilometers of mileage. Well, fool fate. Leave fate in a fool. Now I'll buy, I think, yeah, fuck that N20. Now everything will be easy. But like shit, go to Auto.ea and try to find such a car with 100,000 kilometers of mileage. First of all, find it. And second of all, it's gonna cost like $20,000, which means you're gonna sit down. And the bottom line of this whole speech is, you'll think, right, okay, everything is kind of cool with the N47, but there's a lot of factors that make it worse. And you will think, shit, why overpay $2,000, $3, $4, $5, if shit, N20 will not break down, it is reliable, clear, cool engine, itself does not break down. It breaks down only from the American market, and then only drowned cars, where there are remodeled motors, where someone was digging in the engine, crookedly made liners, something else there tried to restore, that is, if there is such a thing, it breaks down. And usually it doesn't break even on chips. It can break down only because of detonation, because of bad fuel, on the stock, on the chips. If they put bad fuel in and the piston breaks, that's it. Otherwise, it's reliable and it doesn't break down. I mean, and then, especially if you look at our review on the N20, you'll think, man, why should I overpay? The motor itself costs $3,500, $4,000. Well, now it's war, now it's gotten cheaper. Here, so why overpay when there's zero chance of it breaking? You only have to change the chains at 100 kilometers, if there are hundreds. And if it's 150 kilometers, then most likely someone has already changed the chains there. Well, in Ukraine. In America, they do not change them mostly. That's how it turns out. A potential buyer of an F30. After carefully reflecting, he eventually arrives at our service station with a 328 vehicle. By the way, let's not overlook the 328's advantage. It comes with 245 horsepower as a standard feature, while here it's limited to only 184, similar to the 320 with a gasoline engine. As a result, one could say that it is noticeably slower compared to the 328. The 328, on the other hand, is faster, particularly if you choose to install a boot mod chip, which is something we typically offer. We have numerous videos showcasing this, including our drum footage with the boot mod installed. In that scenario, the horsepower jumped significantly, reaching nearly 300, making it incomparable to a diesel engine.
Measurement from 0 to 100. There you go.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, don't let me down!
597.
It's fine, steady under 6 seconds.
Let's try it. Can we make it to 200 kilometers per hour before the turn? No, we don't know. We'll try it.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Come on, come on, come on. Yes, 18.87 hundredths of a second. Let's go from 0 to 100 stock. How much? 1.5. Come on.
Oh, it didn't slip. Driving forever. It just takes so long to get up to 100 kilometers an hour. And now here we are. Interesting, interesting. I think it's gonna be 35 seconds.
I'm afraid we won't make it before the traffic.
Nah, we'll make it.
Maybe we won't make it.
Nah, this one's fine. We're on our way. Everything's fine, fine. We still need to manage to reach 10 kilometers per hour. 5 kilometers per hour. Come on, you can do it. 2 kilometers an hour. 200. In 35 seconds. I got it. 35 tenths and 34 hundredths of a second. To summarize these two instances a little bit, what is their importance? In that this one has 60% of the market share of the F30, and this one has almost 20%, which means that together they have 80% of the market share of any F30 you might encounter. Because, well, if you're watching our video, you're probably coming to us in one of these cars. That's the most important factor in why this video doesn't end in 1 minute by saying the B58 rules everything and everybody run for the B58. Because the remaining 20% is a set of all possible other engine modifications. And now we move on to the losers of the Ukrainian market statistics. That is the remaining 20%. And for example, we have a 330 with a B48 engine, which occupies about 5% of the market. Approximately, according to our statistics, the remaining 20%, of which 5% are occupied by 330th, 335th, 340th, and there are still some offshoots. 330th, B48 engine. I think a lot of people who have seen the video about the B48 have seen it in our footage. And for those of you who have watched the video, be sure to check out the N20 and the B48. Kind of from those videos, you're probably going to conclude that, oh right, I want gasoline but not the N20, and let's get us the B48 instead. But there are a few other problems here as well. First of all, this car is already in a different niche, in a different price category. Before the war, they cost from $20,000 to $30,000. Come to think of it, the G series was already starting at a price of approximately $30,000, and if you had a little over $20,000 to spare, you could get the 335. By the way, this puts both models in a similar price range. For approximately $20,000, $22,000, or $25,000, you could easily purchase some really cool cars. Therefore, there is a significant price difference between the 330 and the 320, as well as the 328 with its cutting-edge N20th engine. In case you're interested, I highly recommend checking out our video. Which to choose, the 330th or the 328th? There we explain the difference between them in great detail, and explain in detail the difference in the restyled version and the pre-restyled version, since 330 goes in the restyled version already, and 328 in the pre-styled version. Of the main reasons why this car is more expensive, well, it's understandable. They're younger, lower mileage, better on average equipment, plus a more reliable motor. Those are kind of the four characteristics. Again, the viewers will like 330, but when they go to auto.ia, they will be very upset because 5% of the cars is about 30 to 40 cars out of 650. That is how much is there. If those 60% and these 5%, it is 12 times less than those. Come to think of it, 12 times, not 10 times, but even more than 10 times. Choice without choice, I think a lot of people will choose 328s. By the way, 328s can also be found more than $20,000. These are the last years, especially restyled American variants of the 16th year, 328s in good configurations with low mileage. That is, they can compete a little bit with 330. But basically it appears that the 330ths are competing or with the 335ths. By the way, the owner of this 330 bought it, but he likes fast driving, he was looking for an N55th, 335th in that budget. He was playing at auctions in America, and eventually somebody offered him a 330th. He decided to gamble, and he won in the end. There's a difference from 335, of course, especially in the stock, in the chip tuning, just in the power. So there's 252 horsepower here, and 335 has 306 horsepower. But on the chip here, you can easily make 300 horsepower without damage, and here you can make from 360 to 400 horsepower. But that's another story. Who is interested in a detailed comparison of the restyled version of the 330th with our pre-restyled brethren? Look, the link is in the description. Here is a video we have already made. It is already on the channel. And now we've moved on to another modification, the F30. You could say it's from the endangered species list. It is 335th on N55th engine, and it would seem that we've got tons of videos about the N55 engine, about the 535, about the X5. And it would seem that there are a lot of these engines, but as it turns out statistically there are a lot of them, but on F5s and on X's, but not on F30. That is, think about it. They are only about 5% of the entire sample of F30. That is, it is like a very rare instance. And people who buy them usually know why they're getting them. They chip them, do stage 2. By the way, we have some cool videos about stage 2 chip tuning for these cars. Take a look. They put all sorts of downpipes, intercoolers, charge pipes, and the car accelerates up to 400 horsepower. It is highly recommended to see the review of this engine on our channel. Well, it was certainly filmed there in some such sad colors. We said there that it can break down, but in fact it does not break down. That is, the main problems with the engine are not even chains. Chains are changed after 200,000 kilometers. And these cars have not reached 200,000, so there is no such problem here as on 328s, but after 100,000 the valve cover is the main problem. It leaks, cracks, maybe injectors, and so well basically there are no special problems on this engine. That is, in general, it is on the average reliable. But no matter how powerful and reliable this engine is, you're probably not going to come to us with a 335th anyway, for all the same reasons as the 330th. Here you get basically 1.5, 2 times more price tags than on the 328s, plus they are older. By the way, these are pre-restyling versions. It all went in pre-restyling versions. That is, it is by years a brother of the 328th, so it is not a brother of the 330th. 330th is fresher, younger, and on mileage less, and here it will be already more mileage, and the price is on 330th on average. That's why they are less. Well, it kind of explains why they were bought less from the factory. I mean, we have fewer of them because they were bought from the factory when they were new from the showrooms. I think it's because for the average user, 245 horsepower at 328s is more than enough. Not to mention a 300 horsepower chip. I mean, come to think of it, we used to have the E46, in which the top version, the 330, divine M54 atmospheric, had 231 horsepower. Imagine here, on a 2-liter engine, 245 horsepower in stock tune. That is, for the majority of unsophisticated users, it's a hell of a lot more than enough. And if it's also chipped, as you've seen, our drum with 310 horsepower on stage 2 plus totally kills the stock 335s. And moving on to the best BMW modification, this is the BMW 340 on a B58 engine. And you're gonna say, man, what the hell are you filming? You kinda see, it's not here. And you don't have it, and you won't have it. Back to our cars. We could actually tell you it was a 340 because this 330 looks, well, geez, one and the same as a regular 340. They're top of the line with LED optics, restyled. By the way, they replaced the 335. They are pre-restyled. These are restyled. I mean, it looks, well, you can't tell the difference. They look about the same, both of them. Let me give you an overview of this modification. Most of you probably already know that I have a 240 with a B58 engine. Many of you may have watched the review where I provide footage of the car and its performance. In that video, you can also see how we raced it. This car is for enthusiasts, specifically for connoisseurs who have a genuine interest in owning such a vehicle. And those who want this engine don't really need to watch our video. I mean, the ones who need to watch our video have already seen the part they need, and the rest is more for enthusiasts. Well, I can say I'm quite the enthusiast myself. Currently, our B58 is at stage 3, boasting 685 horsepower. We took part in the Ukrainian championships, specifically the Kiev Cup, although this was before the war. Right now, the 240 should have been here next to me in this review with the B58, but it's currently in Lviv. We opened a service center there, as you know, and for now, that car stayed there. We had also thought about introducing a B440 convertible. You may have seen it in our review of American salvage vehicles, a 440 convertible. All-wheel drive, B58, everything is super, everything is clear. But, as I have already said, they are not even on auto.ria, there are a few cars there. It is about 5% of the total, and our clients have almost none of them. Well, you won't have one either. And the price tag for this car is not small because it's a completely different niche. That's why there aren't many of them. I mean, these cars cost $35,000 before the war. 30, 35, 32, and if it's a 4 Series, they could cost up to $40,000. Now, of course, their prices are dropping. They range from around 25 to 35, but that doesn't change the fact that they still cost 2 to 3 times more than the 328s. And then imagine, you just want to buy yourself a normal F30. Why would you pay $35,000 for an F30 when you could have bought a 328 in pretty good condition for $18,000 before the war started? It's half the price. You can find one for $17,000, which is a good deal. They'll be in good condition and, most importantly, half the price. If you don't need much power, there's no point in overpaying. So, if you don't really need a lot of power, you get the 330, by the way, for $20,000. You could also find them for $21,000, $22,000, or $23,000. That's about how much they cost before the war. This is roughly your niche. Relatively new cars in good condition and at a reasonable price. Just a few of my thoughts about the whole market situation. I used to think, back when we didn't have the service center yet, I thought I'd like the most powerful engine, something to drive really fast, cool, exciting. Out of all the F30 models, I thought I wanted the 340 or 335 diesel or gasoline, chip it, get it to stage 2, and race it properly. That was my idea. Until, I did a car repair shop, and I thought, man, if all people like to race, or all people who have BMWs like to race, why don't they buy a 340 or 335? It turned out to be some illusion of mine that everyone in general likes powerful cars and likes to race. It kind of turned out to be untrue, and it turned out that there are few such people on the contrary. There are just 5% of them, you could say. Well, there are 5%, 8%, 3% of those who really like to race, like to press the gas pedal to the floor, like to feel how the car goes, to feel exactly the power of the engine. They, of course, would not want to buy 328 because the engine of 2 liters, both gasoline and diesel, they do not consider. But as it turned out, such people are very few. And for example, even if there are more of them in theory, some of them are really not ready to overpay 1.5 to 2 times for a more powerful modification of BMW. Here, come to think of it, when there were new F30 still produced in the showroom, then 328s and 320s could be bought for about $50,000 there. And 335, they were going from $80,000, they're like, come to think of it, and you look at it, 306 horsepower there, 245 horsepower here, what's the difference? There's almost no difference. You can add options just like that. And it's like, why pay 1.5 times as much? And as a result, because of the price, people stifle their desire to drive fast, to feel the power. They stifle and buy a more modestly powerful car. This is kind of the result of the market. That is, far fewer new 335s were bought than 328s. 340s bought even less than 330s. And as a result, this is the situation we have now on the secondary market. Because they won't just show up on the used market either. And the prices on them too are, well, kind of put up by the market. Well, in relation to their general value as a car, they can be considered relatively new. Unfortunately, the audience and demand have played a cruel joke on our channel. Let me give you an example. I once wanted, well, a powerful BMW, and it so happened that I saved up for a 240 on stage 3. Well, you've probably seen the video about buying this car on our channel. Initially, I believed it would be a fascinating project, as it was the only car of its kind in Ukraine. I assumed that everyone there would either want or not want this specific car. In short, I thought it would be incredibly interesting for viewers to witness the process of building and experiencing its power. The B58 engine, for instance, is fantastic. However, things didn't go as planned, as videos with this car have gotten very, very few views at all. They got fewer views than any of our videos on the channel about F10, about X5, about F30. They get at least 2 or even 3 times less views. And that project 240, well, in fact turned out to be, as it were, not necessary and not interesting in terms of views at all. And the 328th, the drum, I think many of you watched how we staged it. Stage 3 was made, we broke the engine, blew it up and broke it, as you remember. It got, well gosh, many times more views and kind of showed that any videos about F30, even the ones that are a little bit boring, and I'm not talking about the video where we broke the motor, they're interesting to you. If we had broken the B58, I think there would have been a lot of views there too. But the average views show that just the audience out of all the stuff that's on the market is more interested in watching about the 328th. I think it has more to do with the ease of buying the 328, their kind of popularity and their price. There's a lower threshold of entry there. When you have a lower entry threshold, it's like more people, more population can afford such a car. And to overpay for another, well, like another one of these 328 to buy, to overpay for a 3040th, not many people will dare. Not many people will take that step. So it has to be a specific client. And since there are fewer such specific people, we have what we have. And now the video is coming to an end. Those who have been subscribed to us for a long time and have watched many of our videos, I think, have not noticed any lack, any limitation in technical information. Because we already had a lot of this information. There were videos about the difference of the 330th, 328th. There was a review of all the engines that we have mentioned to you today, except for the N13th. There was the difference between the restyled version and the pre-restyled version. 330, 328. I mean, you can see different videos there on the equipment, something else. Such more nuances, we have already considered it. That is, for those who have been subscribed for a long time, this video is quite harmonious and looks normal. For those who came for the first time to these videos and do not know about our channel, I highly recommend to familiarize yourself with our work. I mean, we have already made so many videos about F30 that I was already a little bored here, because I'll be honest, about 100th time I say the same things that we have in previous videos. We are now being asked by customers, subscribers, which F30 is better to choose. A 328 with a gasoline engine, or a 320 on a diesel, or a 335 on a gasoline. And I kind of don't have such a definite answer here, and I would like to make this video for you as a consistency of some of my philosophy, my thoughts, as an answer to these questions of customers. I mean, it's clear that the answers are kind of obvious, but when we get back to reality, it's not so obvious. I think our video has helped you decide which BMW F30 modification to buy. Well, and personally from me to you, this short conclusion. Regardless of what model BMW F30 you initially would like to buy for yourself, you still in 60% probability will come to us 328 or 320 on a gasoline engine. You're 20% likely to arrive at 320 on a diesel. And only in 5% probability there will be rare specimens of 330i, 335 or 340i. I mean, you see, it doesn't change the essence of your question. When I don't suddenly answer your question about whether this or that is better. By the way, I will give such clients a link to this video right away. When my clients ask me such questions, I answer them simply. Take the one you like best, the one that suits you best. Don't look at some of the faults, not faults, what will break, what will not break. In fact, anything can break down here and there, but it doesn't change the essence of it. So you'd better take the car that you like better for yourself. That is, where the engine is bigger, where the equipment is better, the one that you like better in appearance. Someone likes the exterior better, someone likes the interior, someone likes the engine, someone likes some other additional characteristics. It's better to have that kind of attitude. I believe it's better to love your car, and then you won't really care if it has some issues, whether something breaks or doesn't. You will forgive it all and will treat it well, service it and invest in it. If you invest money and time into it, you will at least not be sorry to invest it into your favorite car. And if you do it out of some calculation, let's say you like the engine on gasoline 2 liters, and out of some calculation you bought yourself N47 2 liters on diesel, you will think, well, the car is worse, the equipment is worse, the appearance is worse, but it's a diesel, but now I have a diesel. And now we change the chains only once every 200,000 kilometers. But what's the point? The point is that when you come to replace the chain or something else breaks, and not even concerning the engine, you will think, I wanted 328th gasoline, and there could not have broken, there would be easier to invest money in it. In short, it has its own nuances. Everyone will get his own way. I also say to my clients, look, I did not have a choice to buy a 320 diesel or a 328 diesel. I had a choice without a choice. I bought a B58. I bought a B58, but I didn't ask anyone which one to take, this one or the other. Because everyone has his own choice, his own way. It is not worth repeating it after someone or from some rigid calculation. It's better to listen to your soul, because all the engines are reliable and none of them will just break down for no reason. That is, there are some reasons for it, but it happens very rarely. That's why you should not worry about any modification of F30. By the way, I remembered N13, you should worry about it, but you will not meet it, so don't worry. If for the 10th time to summarize personally from me, then take BMW, which you liked more on its complete set, on an external appearance, on internal feeling, on engine, and don't worry too much about it. Here is such a video, I think it will be useful to many people. Write your comments below the video. I'll ask a couple more questions there. I'm very interested in what you write in the comments. It is interesting how your choice when buying a BMW happens or happened. So I think everyone will be interested. Don't worry your head. Buy what you like. Do not forget, there is a war in our country. Help the territorial defense forces of Ukraine, volunteers, the armed forces of Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine, death to the occupiers, and we go to work.